Have you ever wondered why a single glance can feel like a magnet pulling at your ribcage? Why a casual smile can detonate a storm of thoughts? Or why a fantasy you never chose still returns like a tide? Your sexual desire is not random. It is not a malfunction to be fixed or an appetite to be endlessly fed. It is a coded message from the deepest layers of your psyche. And when you learn to read it, it becomes a compass that points toward who you are becoming. If you stay with me, you won't just get ideas, you'll get a method. You'll learn how to translate arousal into awareness, how to turn infatuation into integration, and how to discover what your desire has been trying to tell you all along. Let's begin with a simple shift that changes everything. Desire is symbolic. On the surface, it reaches toward bodies, faces, voices, gestures, and situations. Beneath the surface, it reaches toward meanings. Your psyche does not speak English or Spanish as its first language. It speaks in images, energies, and patterns. Sexual desire is one of its most concentrated dialects. When it surges, it is not only saying I want that person, but also I want to become something through this attraction. If you rush to gratify the impulse without listening to it, you discharge the message with the sensation. If you learn to contain the energy long enough to decode it, you gain access to buried information about your shadow, your unlived potentials, and the next step in your individuation. Individuation is the movement from a life organized around your mask to a life organized around your essence. You have a persona, the adaptive self that gets approval, keeps the job, fits the culture, pleases the family. There's nothing wrong with having one. The problem is living inside it as if it were all you are. Sexual desire often arrives when your deeper nature is knocking on the armor of the persona. You feel pulled toward what seems outside you, but the heat is generated by what's struggling to be born within you. This is why some attractions feel fated. They constellate an archetype, those primordial patterns that predate your biography. When an archetype lights up, it carries the force of destiny. And if you don't recognize what is moving inside you, you'll mistake the person as the source rather than the trigger. There is another layer to decode: projection. You carry inner images of the ideal masculine and the ideal feminine, not as social stereotypes, but as living psychic realities. These inner figures are not merely fantasies. They are bridges to wholeness. When they remain unconscious, you cast them onto someone and then chase them in the outer world. The rush of desire often signals that an inner figure, an image of strength, grace, passion, wisdom, mystery, tenderness, sovereignty, is stepping forward. You glimpse it in another, but it belongs to your psyche. If you attempt to possess the person instead of integrating the quality, you remain dependent on the external carrier. If you practice reowning the projection, you become less desperate and more magnetic because you are no longer asking someone else to hold what is actually yours. How do I reown a projection? Begin with the sensation itself. Instead of collapsing into fantasy or sprinting toward gratification, breathe and notice the exact geography of the pull. Where does it live in your body? What color, temperature, texture would it have if you had to describe it? What memories flicker behind it? Set a timer for 3 minutes and choose not to do anything except feel. The mind will try to bargain with you. It will say, "This is pointless. Just text them or you're being dramatic." That is the persona losing control. Stay with the tension. Often in the second or third minute, an image will emerge. An inner scene, a symbol, a word, a face that is not the current object of desire. This is your first breadcrumb. Desire has begun to speak its native language. From here, we practice active imagination. No incense is required, only honesty. Close your eyes and invite the desire to personify itself. If it were a character, how would it look and sound? Ask it a simple question. What do you want from me? Not what do you want from me, but for me. Listen without censoring. You might hear courage, risk, softness, boundaries, play, depth, truth, sovereignty. These are not abstract virtues. They are the qualities your life is currently starving for, and your erotic energy is trying to deliver them in a form you cannot ignore. If you keep treating desire as a purely physical pressure, you will miss the curriculum. If you treat it as a teacher, you will extract meaning from the very energy that has been distracting you. Now, let's confront the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is everything you refuse to be. It includes your disowned power and your hidden vulnerabilities. Sexual desire reliably points to the door of the shadow because it presses on the places you pretend to have outgrown. Ask yourself, what in this attraction threatens my current identity? If you see yourself as perpetually composed, desire may provoke your wildness. If you see yourself as endlessly giving, desire may demand you name your needs. If you see yourself as rational, desire may drag you into mystery. The friction is the invitation. What you find unbearable in your attraction, its intensity, its irrationality, its tenderness, its danger, maps directly onto the parts of you that need integration. Here is a counterintuitive truth. Your patterns of attraction are shaped less by your preferences and more by your complexes. A complex is a knot of emotion, memory, defense, and expectation that clusters around a theme. Abandonment, control, unworthiness, rescue, superiority, submission, conquest, invisibility. When a complex is triggered, it hijacks your energy and narrates your story for you. Desire in this state becomes compulsive. You feel chosen by the feeling rather than choosing from your center. To work with a complex, you don't shame it, you name it. Give it a title. Observe its favorite script. Notice how it recruits your body, the tightness in the gut, the speed in the chest, the narrowing of attention, and how it edits the facts to serve its prophecy. The moment you can say a complex is speaking, you create a sliver of space. In that space, your desire can be purified from compulsion into clarity. Let's bring in the principle of the tension of opposites. Transformation does not happen by smashing one pole and exalting the other. It happens by holding the charge between them until a third thing appears. This is psychic alchemy. Desire carries the heat that makes alchemy possible. On one side, instinct, passion, longing, hunger. On the other side, awareness, boundaries, truth, responsibility. If you collapse into indulgence, you repeat the old story. If you collapse into repression, you become brittle and numb. When you consent to feel fully without acting blindly, psyche begins to reorganize. A symbol surfaces that unites the poles. Courage that is tender, intimacy that is responsible, power that is receptive, devotion that does not erase selfhood. The third thing is always more human and more whole than the original conflict. A crucial concept here is sublimation, not as moralistic denial, but as intelligent channeling. Sexual energy is generalized psychic energy. It wants to move. If you forbid it movement, it furs. If you give it a cheap exit, it dissipates. Sublimation asks you to offer it worthy pathways. Create a container, a practice, a craft, a ritual, a conversation with soul through which the energy can rise. Rising does not mean leaving the body. It means infusing more of your body with awareness. When you write honestly, move artfully, build bravely, speak truthfully, serve wholeheartedly, or study fiercely, you are not distracting yourself from desire. You are completing its journey. The same current that once chased an illusion becomes the light that reads your life correctly. Let's decode specific signals. First, intensity. When an attraction arrives like lightning, sudden, blinding, totalizing, it often means an archetype has constellated. Ask, what universal myth is being activated? Is it the savior and the saved? The sovereign and the worshipper? The muse and the maker? The hunter and the elusive? The healer and the wounded? The rebel and the law? Don't judge it, name it. The moment you recognize the myth, you reduce its ability to swallow you. Instead of acting out the story, you can extract the lesson. Second, repetition. If you keep wanting a similar pattern in different costumes, a complex is hunting for completion. It will keep returning until you learn to feed it with consciousness instead of repetition. Third, paradox. If you are simultaneously drawn in and repelled, compelled and frightened, you are close to a threshold. Something in you knows that crossing it will cost you an old identity. Honor the fear. Don't obey it. Bring the fear into the conversation. What are you protecting? What would you need to feel included if I grow beyond this? Dreams are your nightly workshop. Sexual symbols in dreams are rarely literal. They point toward union, creation, renewal, and the meeting of opposites. Notice the emotional tone of the dream. Joy, guilt, awe, shame, wonder, urgency, serenity. Notice the setting. A threshold, a classroom, a wild place, a sacred place, a decaying place. Notice the obstacle, a locked door, a missing item, an unwanted witness, a sudden interruption. These details tell you what part of the psyche is seeking union and what part is resisting it. Write down the dream before you move. Title it as if it were a short story. Then ask, what in my waking life carries the same feeling? What decision, conversation, or creative act would honor the movement this dream is asking for? When you align a small waking action with the dream's symbolic direction, you tell the unconscious that you are listening and it responds with more guidance. Let's turn to embodiment. The nervous system is the stage on which all of this unfolds. If your baseline is dysregulated, chronically braced, collapsed, or scattered, desire will either feel like an emergency or a sedative. Neither reading is accurate. To recover the message, you must restore a middle ground called regulation. Practice a simple sequence when desire spikes. Exhale longer than you inhale 5 times. Feel the backs of your legs and the weight of your feet. Press the tongue lightly to the roof of the mouth. Widen your peripheral vision. Name 5 anchor points in the room. This takes less than a minute and it shifts you from possessed to present. Now the conversation with desire can be honest because your body is no longer interpreting it as a threat. Boundaries are not the enemy of OS. They are its guardians. A boundary is a shape that protects meaning. Without it, desire becomes noise. With it, desire becomes music. Ask 3 boundary questions whenever attraction arises. What do I want to protect? What do I want to cultivate? And what do I want to refuse? Protect your time, your core commitments, your integrity. Cultivate conversation that moves toward truth, not toward performance. Refuse arrangements that require you to betray yourself or manipulate another. When you articulate these clearly, you do not shrink desire, you refine it. The energy that once leaked into fantasy and negotiation returns as creativity and direction. Let's explore the phenomenon of transference not as a clinical label, but as a daily reality. When desire is intense, you may be seeing through the lens of earlier unmet needs. The psyche tries to complete the past by projecting it onto the present. If you feel an out-of-proportion dependency, panic at distance, or euphoric certainty after trivial signals, pause and ask, who am I actually trying to reach right now? What recognition am I hunting for? What promise do I wish someone would finally keep with me? Do not shame this longing. Meet it. Write the promise yourself. Keep it with specific actions. When you do, you retrieve your authority and you stop asking an external situation to solve an internal history. Now, the principle of in and troia, the running of a thing into its opposite. Psyche self-corrects extremes over time. If you have lived in chronic restraint, you will be flooded with impulses until you learn to include desire without losing yourself. If you have lived in chronic indulgence, you will be confronted with emptiness until you learn the art of meaning. Don't fear the swing. Read it. Ask what each swing is teaching you. Restraint can reveal the depth of your longings. Indulgence can reveal their hollowness. The aim is not to stay at either pole, but to grow a center that can hold both appetite and awareness without collapsing. Here is a practical framework for decoding your desire in the moment it appears. Think of 3 layers: sensation, story, and symbol. Sensation, what precisely is happening in your body? Location, pressure, rhythm, temperature. Story, what narrative instantly overlays the feeling? If this happens, I will finally be chosen. Or if I miss this, I will be alone forever. Or this is dangerous and must be controlled. Symbol, what image wants to emerge if you neither obey nor suppress the story? Spend 60 seconds on each layer without skipping. You will be surprised how often the symbol contradicts the story. The body speaks heat. The mind speaks bargaining. The soul speaks direction. Your job is not to pity or punish any voice, but to hear all three until a wiser fourth voice, the integrated one, can choose. Let's install morning and evening rituals to train this capacity. In the morning before your phone, ask 2 questions in your journal. What am I secretly chasing today? And what quality do I choose to embody instead of chasing? If you write validation, choose truth. If you write control, choose trust. If you write excitement, choose meaning. Circle the quality and design one act that proves it before noon. At night, write the 3 strongest pulls you felt that day toward a person, an image, a memory, a scenario. For each, write the quality you were actually seeking. Safety, freedom, novelty, intensity, intimacy, recognition, surrender, sovereignty. Then write one way you could feed that need tomorrow without outsourcing it. This practice rewires desire from compulsion into conversation. Pay close attention to the fantasies you return to. They are not embarrassing accidents. They are encrypted requests. Instead of policing them or indulging them mindlessly, interview them. What roles do you take in the fantasy? Pursuer, pursued, rescuer, rescues, ruler, ruled, seen, unseen. What emotion saturates it? Adoration, danger, forgiveness, power, relief, revelation? What setting repeats? Hidden rooms, public displays, faraway lands, thresholds, rituals, reunions, confessions. Translate each element into a human need. Perhaps the public element points to the craving to stop hiding your truth. Perhaps the danger points to a life that has become too domesticated for your spirit. Perhaps the rescue points to the part of you that wants strength. When you meet the need consciously, the fantasy loosens its grip and begins to evolve. It becomes more nuanced, more human, more aligned with your actual values. Let's talk about values without moralizing. Values are not rules you obey. They are the shape of your soul in action. When your desire and your values cooperate, you feel clean, energized, clear, available for depth. When they are at war, you feel split, high for a moment, and hollow afterward. Use a 2-column inventory. On the left, list the felt signals of aligned desire, grounded excitement, widening attention, ease in the breath, increased curiosity, a sense that time deepens rather than vanishes. On the right, list the signals of misaligned desire, tunnel vision, bargaining thoughts, shame before action, the urge to hide, the need to obtain reassurance rather than offer truth. Keep this paper where you can see it. When attraction spikes, match it against the list. Do not wait for philosophies to catch up. Let your body's honesty guide you. Creativity is not separate from eros. It is eros with a longer attention span. If your romantic life feels monotonous or frantic, look at your creative life. Are you giving form to the images that visit you? Are you finishing what you start? Are you risking your voice? Desire starved of creation will try to solve everything through relationship. Desire fed by creation becomes generous inside relationship. You don't have to be an artist to live this way. You need a practice that asks you to bring something invisible into visibility every day. An idea into words, an intention into structure, a vision into a plan, a promise into a boundary, a truth into a conversation. Every time you do this, you are making the same move desire's always asking you to make. Become what you seek. Now, we address power and tenderness, 2 poles that often split. Many people use erotic energy either to dominate or to disappear. Dominance without tenderness is brittle. Tenderness without power is exhausting. Your desire will reveal where you tilt. If you habitually rush to impress, perform, or conquer, practice softening, slower speech, longer pauses, letting silence work, asking rather than assuming. If you habitually appease, adapt, or overgive, practice strengthening, speaking a boundary cleanly, naming a desire without apology, tolerating another's disappointment without rescuing them from it. When power and tenderness learn to share the same nervous system, desire becomes trustworthy. Others can feel it. You are no longer using energy to manipulate outcomes. You are offering energy as presence. There's a reason spirituality and sexuality belong in the same sentence. Both concern union. Union is not the eraser of difference. It is the meeting of differences in a field of awareness that can hold them. Sexual desire, when approached with reverence, trains you to stay awake at the edge where two worlds touch. Instinct and insight, matter and meaning, me and not me. If you can remain awake at that edge, life becomes more textured. You are not hunting constant peaks. You are cultivating constant depth. Depth is quiet. It is the kind of joy you don't have to photograph to prove to yourself that you felt it. Let's add a vow. Not an external vow to impress anyone, but an inner vow that strengthens your spine. Say it out loud if you can. I will not use my desire to abandon myself. I will not use my desire to control another. I will treat my desire as a messenger of my becoming. This vow is not a prison. It is a home. When you inevitably break it, as every human does, you do not spiral into shame. You return, you repair, you reflect, and you refine. Each return thickens your integrity. Each repair grows your compassion. Each reflection sharpens your vision. Over time, people will sense it without you announcing it. Your desire is not hungry in the way that begs. It is hungry in the way that builds. You may ask, but how do I know if an attraction is true? Try the question on its head. What truth about me does this attraction require? If an attraction requires you to lie about your needs, contort your values, or disappear your boundaries, it is asking you to finance your longing with self-betrayal. If an attraction requires you to be more honest, more present, more courageous, more patient, more discerning, more alive, it is asking you to fund your longing with growth. The first path is expensive and empty. The second is demanding and meaningful. Your body knows the difference, and if you practice listening, you will know it earlier each time. There is a final practice I want you to take with you. The attention fast for 7 days. No compulsive peeking at the person or platform that keeps your nervous system on a leash. Not because looking is bad, but because your attention is sacred. Redirect the saved attention into 3 things daily. 1 act of creation, 1 act of truth-telling, 1 act of beauty. Creation could be a paragraph you actually finish, a plan you outline, a space you reclaim. Truth-telling could be declining what you do not want, confessing what you do want, or admitting a fear. Beauty could be arranging your environment so that your senses feel respected. Reading a page that nourishes your mind, or walking without headphones until the world touches your skin again. At the end of 7 days, rim your desire. It will be quieter and stronger. It will speak in complete sentences. As you live like this, the face of desire changes. It stops dragging you and starts dialoguing with you. It stops promising rescue and starts promising revelation. You will still be surprised, moved, undone at times. That is part of being alive. But you won't be helpless inside the wave. You'll have an oar. And with that, oar comes a subtle authority. The kind that says, I am not here to extract an identity from anyone. I am here to bring my whole self to the meeting point and to read what the meeting reveals about the next step of my becoming. Notice what is happening right now as you listen. Perhaps your breath has slowed. Perhaps an image has appeared. The doorway you haven't walked through. The conversation you have postponed. The creative risk you have been negotiating against. That image is your next assignment. Desire brought you to the threshold. Your willingness will carry you across. And if you stay awake long enough to feel the tremor of that crossing in your own chest, you will recognize the signature that appears every time you choose the path of integration. An unmistakable sense that something within you has stopped waiting and started living.